Hey, welcome everybody. I've got Hunter here with me today. Hunter, hi, welcome.
Hello. Hi.
So Hunter invested in a property here in Loveland, Colorado. It's been 3 years, is that right?
Yeah, coming up on three
And
years
now you
now.
don't live there anymore, right?
I don't know. Not anymore.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so this Hunter and I put together what you're seeing over here, where it says Hunter's first property, then it says Hunter's first house. So the market at the time, he was like, "Hey, I want to move out. I'd love to have an investment property. What are my options?" So we kind of looked around, and just to rent a single bedroom in a house at the time was 500. Today, what is that? Is it like 850 now to get a single room
Yeah.
somewhere?
Yeah.
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 So he was like, I'm not renting a bedroom in somebody else's house. An apartment was $1,200. That was actually pretty reasonable at the time. So that's good to see. And the average single family house in Loveland, you can see that number right here, 429,630. So that's what the average was when Hunter purchased this house. Um, his mom actually was the one who found it before anybody else, and it was a little triplex, little 3 units. It's got an upstairs, kind of like an attic, or not an attic. What is that? Like an addition above the house?
Yeah. It's an addition above the house. I mean, it's not even
Okay.
like stairs outside and everything, so it's not even connected through indoors.
Total separate entrance, right? Yeah. And then it has a main house, just a regular house that you would typically see, kitchen, baths, everything in the house. And then it has a basement that used to be rented as a separate unit altogether. Hunter doesn't rent it that way now, but you'll see on the description, it'll say basement. Um, that's a combined from the main house and the basement right now. If you ever wanted to put a kitchen down there, again, the house is listed as a triplex, so that's an option. That's why it's listed the way it is. And so this house was 390. Hunter, do you remember looking at it?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I'm trying to think of all the other houses that you looked at before it. How did this one stack up?
well, the few other ones we looked at, they were also like multifamily. They were in like Fort Collins, most of them, and
Mm-hmm.
they were okay, I guess. They weren't super nice, like they were near the college and everything. But I mean, this one was just in Loveland. It was cheaper and
Mm-hmm.
it had, I think it had a lot more character than the other ones we looked at. It was like um, everything was updated on it mostly, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we just liked it a lot more.
Yeah, I remember one we were looking at. It was like somebody had kind of just put sheds together or something, and like attached these weird sheds to the house. Like, and it was super crappy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. This one's way nicer.
yeah,
So like buying any house, right? Like it's a stretch. Like you're like, my goodness, I'm going through a lot to try to figure out how to buy this house. Um, it doesn't matter if it's a $30,000 house. There's always that anxiety that comes up with it. And so this one was 390, and you stretched to get it. This is what I remember from your transaction. You brought about 10 grand of cash, 390 of loan for a total of $400,000. The house sold for 390, but it costs 400 to buy it because you have to borrow financing. Let's see. So you lived upstairs originally. You were like, "Hey, I'm not going to live in the big house. I'm going to house hack this thing. I'm going to get as much money from a renter as I can. I'm going to go live upstairs."
yeah.
And you got a roommate. How did you find your roommate?
My roommate was actually my cousin. Um, he just needed a place to live. Yeah, he moved in with me. He stayed there for um, probably about almost a year combined. But yeah, I could have found another
Perfect.
one if I wanted to, but I soon moved out there. But yeah,
Yeah, it's always nice to know the person who you're sharing your space with. So that was good.
yeah,
And then you guys found somebody to rent the house, and it was for 1750. I have it broken down as 1200 and 550 for main house and basement, but the reality is both of those spaces got rented to one family for 1750.
yeah.
How was that process finding your first tenant?
I mean, it was a process for me. It was like, I mean, my first time doing it, obviously. I learned and picked some stuff up from my dad. He's done it before. He's pretty good at vetting people and knowing what to look for.
Very
So
good, I'd say. Yeah.
yeah, a group of young adults who worked at good jobs and good credit scores, and it's been working out pretty great so far. So yeah, 3 years later.
And you were telling me that's the same tenant, right? The first people who moved in are still there
Yeah,
today
yeah.
over the
And
3
it
years.
seems like they do plan on being there for a while. I mean, yeah.
I love it. That's great. So here's kind of what your numbers look like over there. So your mortgage is 2250 a month. You pay the utilities of 300 a month. We kind of just took a stab at numbers like, hey, we have to save something for a house, so we put little buckets here of 170 a month, so 70 for upkeep and 100 for other expenses, so that your budgeted expenses on that place are 2720. And so that means you were living there for around 400, and what is that, $470 a month was roughly what it cost you to stay at the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then here we are 3 years later. This house now, 3 years later. So you moved out of your space because you had a job opportunity elsewhere. So you moved into the apartment you're sitting in up there now,
Yeah.
and you're working toward another career. So you moved out and you rented the full house.
Yep.
So that same group of people is at that 1750 mark, and you said they actually brought the tenant who took over your space upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a coworker of theirs who was already living there for a few months, and I told them, "Hey, I'm moving out. I don't know if any of you guys." I thought I'd give them first dibs if they were interested. I didn't think they would be, but yeah, one
Yeah,
of them was interested in doing it, having his own space. And yeah, it was pretty perfect situation in that way.
I love it. That's awesome. That yeah, they got to help pick, and you got a good tenant
Yeah.
in there. And
Mhm.
so that brings your total income now up to 2,800 a month on that property. And your expenses are at 2,750 a month. That's that's it. That's saying you're paying the utilities still, and the
Mhm.
upkeep is $100, and other expenses are $100. And that, like you just told me a little bit ago, that just goes into an account. You don't look at it, so you don't actually like track that. It just fills up that account, so um, you're not
Yeah.
eating out of that account right now.
Yeah.
And so your actual like spendable income, if you wanted to, you could spend $50 a month and not impact this house at all.
Mhm.
Um, so 3 years ago, you took this giant plunge, like, hey, let me get into a rental property, and then let's see, was it worth it? Is the next question over here. And again, it's always worth it on different levels, but this one's just the financial level. Was it worth it financially? So what I did, I dug through properties close by, and it wasn't like super close by. It was all of downtown Loveland. I was like, hey, let me look at all of downtown Loveland and see if there's any duplex, triplex, fourplex, anything for sale. And there's one on 8th Street, so that's pretty close. It's a threeplex, and it was listed at 625. And so I thought, all right, so yours is a threeplex, but you don't have a kitchen. So let me drop 25 grand off of there in case you had to put a kitchen in that basement. So I'm going to say yours is worth 600. You bought it for 4, which gives you a gain on paper now of appreciation of $200,000. So that's pretty great to see
Mhm.
what the market did. Then you also generate $50 a month of income from that property, and you've paid down $25,000 against your mortgage so far. So that's pretty great too. Like that's so this one you did, that one the market did, and this one you did. And so appreciation plus your reduction plus your income. I guess I never added that $50 in. It's just kind of hanging out there. Um, that gives you a gain of 225. So you made this decision 3 years ago, and you're benefiting from that decision around $225,000 over 3 years. Um, that's got to be pretty fun to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to know in the back of my mind.
Yeah, you're not going to do anything with it, but I mean, like, you're not going to act on it at the moment. But that's just, to me, that's great to see. Um, yeah, that quick recap, like, hey, let's go get a first property. Okay, you could have spent $1,200 a month on rent and just moved on and not taking any risk. Uh, you decided to stretch to buy at 390, take on a 2250 mortgage, so roughly double what it would have cost to rent. You took on in mortgage. but you got tenants in place that paid for all but like $400 of that. So instead of paying 12, you were paying 4. Um, now you make $600 a year, and you've gained $225,000 in value.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations on that. That's a heck of a first investment property.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a good experience. Just having that, and yeah, kind of learned how to be a property manager in the same time, which is a good skill to have at the same time. So yeah.
Probably makes you a pretty decent tenant too in the place that you're renting right now.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah, taking care of that space too. So yeah, trash it out. Anything that was like super scary at the beginning that you're like, man, that shouldn't have been that scary.
Um, Sometimes I guess just certain things came up that had to be worked on. I remember like the first year there's a big dead tree in the backyard. We had to get rid of that because in the winter when snow would fall, it was sitting over a telephone line. So every time we're looking at it, wondering maybe today's the day the tree branch snaps. But it's just yeah, there's stuff like that you do have to think about when you're not just a tenant but also the owner, which is
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah, the stuff like that's the hard stuff to get used to, especially just jumping into it young. But
Looking at it with different eyes, right? So you couldn't, yeah, like you said, as an owner, not just a tenant, um, you had to think through like, that's my tree. What do I do with that thing?
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anything else stand out as either exciting or bizarre or just a fun anecdote about the space?
Um, I mean, not too much, just off the top of my mind. There's detached sheds too, garages. Nothing like super fancy, but those also just help out in a good sized backyard. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember you guys were a little hesitant with the proximity to the railroad tracks. Has that ever been an issue there, or has it just became normal as soon as you moved
Hmm.
in?
I guess yeah, that is kind of one thing that would sometimes wake me up at night, and I'm sure it does other people too. But
Yeah.
nothing you can do about that, and it's not a huge problem. But
It just became part of the property, right? Like
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
lives near the railroad tracks in downtown Loveland. So yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I hope that this story for all you guys out there watching, I hope it piques some interest. I hope it shows you um, what this one scenario is like, and kind of maybe encourages you to look at scenarios for yourself and say, what can I do? Is there something in this market for me? Is there something I could be doing that would help me knock down my first rental property? Hunter, you have any advice for these guys?
Um, yeah, I just say if it's if real estate is a space you want to get into, I think that's great. You can learn a lot of things just about just managing and just dealing with money and everything and doing it on your own, actually, where you have to be the one that worries about everything. Um, like that's just one of the things I think of now. That's happened to me the most. I know the property's gained in value, but I think I've gotten a lot of just life skills from it too that I didn't even think I'd get as a result. But yeah, if you're someone who's willing to kind of treat it like a part-time job, then it's definitely a it's definitely a good thing to do. So
I appreciate you sharing that. I think we discount sometimes our learning, but once we learn something, we have it forever. And so those skills or tools or perspectives that we gain, they stick with us and make it so we we can do more things in the future. Help a friend or um, help an employer or um, be an employer. It teaches us to do things that we didn't think we were going to at the beginning, and we keep that stuff forever. So
definitely, yeah.
hooray! Well, thank you again for taking the time to do this. Thanks for letting me be part of your journey on your first rental property, man. I appreciate working with you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
All right. See ya.
Yeah.